Good evening, my name is Katarzyna Nowicka and welcome to Poland Daily News. The echoes of Vladimir Putin's slander statements in which the president of Russia accuses Poland of collaborating with Hitler to unleash the Second World War are not stopping. In a propaganda attack on our country, Putin described Józef Lipski, the Polish ambassador in Berlin in the 1930s, as an anti-Semitic villain. It seems, however, that at least for now, Putin has failed in his calculations, as Western governments and Jewish communities have taken a position on this matter in solidarity with Poland. The Polish Ministry of Foreign Affairs reacted decisively to Putin's lies. Then a statement presenting a principled view of Poland's position was announced by Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki in agreement with the president. Some opposition politicians and liberal media have criticized the president for not responding adequately to Putin's words in his New Year's address.
I believe that the message addressed to citizens should not refer at all to statements made by Vladimir Putin, because it would give these statements some validity. It would be bad if this message were to represent our president's reaction, if he were to mix such warm wishes to his countrymen with responding to the nonsense spoken by the Russian president.
Commentators emphasize that the Russian president, by launching an aggressive propaganda action against Poland and using the anti-Semitic card for this purpose, was counting on the reaction of the West that would be unfavorable towards Poland. However, representatives of Western governments, as well as Jewish communities, took a stand in solidarity with Poland.
Such a well-planned reaction clearly showed that Poland is not Russia's errand boy. The distribution of these reactions in time showed that these statements made by Putin are simply not serious to us. Moreover, the reactions of international ambassadors of Germany, USA and Israel itself are a statement to the fact that our response was proper.
Które potwierdziły, że to, co mówił prezydent Putin, jest nieprawdą i tak dalej.
This year is the 75th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz. This year, the official celebrations associated with the commemoration of this anniversary will be held first on January 23rd in Yad Vashem in Israel, where Vladimir Putin will be one of the guests, and then on January 27th in Poland. The Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov has already officially announced that the schedule of the president of Russia does not include a visit to Poland. On January 1st, Poland took command of the so-called NATO Response Force. The bulk of these forces will be the 21st Podhale Rifleman Brigade from the city of Rzeszów, supported by units from the 12th Mechanized Division of Szczecin and the 3rd Airlift Wing from Powice, the military police, as well as the logistic experts and specialists in the field of defense against mass destruction threats. Soldiers from 12 other alliance countries are also a part of the NATO Response Force. Australia is being devastated by a catastrophic wave of bushfires. 17 people have already been killed and over 1,300 homes have been destroyed in a fire that has been sweeping through the southeast of the country for 17 weeks now. Due to the dramatic situation caused by the fires, the authorities of New South Wales declared a state of emergency.
The worsening conditions we know that are ahead of us on Saturday, and given what our state's been through in the last few days, especially on New Year's Eve, we will be declaring a state of emergency from 9 a.m. tomorrow. That will last 7 days. The reason why we're doing it tomorrow, ahead of Saturday, is to make sure that Commissioner Fitzsimmons and all of the emergency personnel, all of our agencies, all organisations know that from tomorrow they will be subject to forced evacuations, road closures, road openings, and anything else we need to do as a state to keep our residents safe and to keep property safe.
We are expecting those conditions on Saturday to see temperatures into the low to mid 40s, very hot, dry air coming out of the centre of Australia, which means humidities will be particularly low. The winds are going to start very much strengthening up from the north, northwest, and swinging around more to the west throughout the day. And those wind strengths, particularly across the ranges, will be coming in at 40, 50, 60 kilometres an hour and then gusting to 70 to 80 kilometres an hour.
Everyone's been trying to leave. There's no supplies. The sewerage is just about to its limit. So they're trying to get everyone out this afternoon, if not tomorrow morning. So what do you do? What do you do? Seriously, I feel so sorry for all these people.
The capital of Indonesia, Jakarta, was flooded. In the aftermath of heavy rains, at least 21 people were killed. A large part of the metropolis, with over 10 million inhabitants, found itself underwater. Over 30,000 people were evacuated from the affected area.
Emergency services continue to provide assistance, food and medicine. We are pleased that the conditions are improving quickly. We hope that the flood water will settle down. Currently, 478 pumps are operating at full capacity. In the long term, we plan to take comprehensive measures, build dams and retention reservoirs that will stop flood waves, but the pace of work depends on the central government. It is getting worse compared to the previous floods. The attempt to regulate and build embankments has come to a standstill, as the Indonesian government suspended its work in 2017, and temporary canals are not very efficient and do not drain as much water as needed. That is why we now have a replay of the Great Flood of 2007.
The rainy season in Indonesia started in November. The downpours are so intense that the riverbanks burst and quickly flooded thousands of houses. In many places in Jakarta, the water level on the streets exceeds 2.5 meters. Photos from some parts of the city showed people who took shelter on the upper floors of buildings and the roofs alongside their belongings. The supply of electricity has been suspended in most districts. The power supply company announced that it has decided to cut off power to prevent electrocution. The most common causes of death for the flood victims are drowning and electric shock. That's all for tonight. Now on to Poland Daily Business with Aleksander Wierzejski and his guest. Good night.
Hello and welcome to Poland Daily Weather. Tonight the forecast will bring partly cloudy skies throughout the country. We can expect temperatures of 0 degrees on the seacoast to -5 degrees in Wrocław. Tomorrow we can expect a bright and fair day in Poland. The warmest spots on the map will be Poznań and Gdańsk at 6 degrees, while the coldest will be Olsztyn at 1 degree above zero. The next 3 days will bring showers on Saturday in the northeast, and on Sunday we can expect sleet in the central and southern regions of Poland. On Monday we can expect sleet in the northeast and partly cloudy skies in the southwest and clear skies throughout the rest of the country. That is all for now. I thank you for joining us, and I invite you to stay with us for Poland Daily Business.
Poland Daily Business Edition tonight. A few words about the energy in the world. Our expert is Jakub Wiech of Energetyka24 or 24.pl, so welcome to the show. And let us say Europe is going away from the coal, hard coal, lignite. We don't want it anymore. It's dirty, it's polluting, it's bad. Is this the same in other countries?
Not really, unfortunately, because as we heard recently from some environmentalist groups, China is building additional 226 gigawatts of power, of capacities in coal. And Beijing has already opened 42.9 gigawatts in coal power. So 42.9 gigawatts is approximately the same amount of capacities that Poland has in total, and 226 gigawatts in coal power is it's
6 times more. We can
and it's more coal power than we have in the whole EU. So this is the such true about coal exit in the world. And the same history is going on in Japan, where the government plans to open 20 gigawatts of capacity in coal. We see that China and Russia are building some coal-fired power plants in Africa. So Europe gets away from coal. In the US, coal is being pushed away from the market by very cheap natural gas, but in the other regions, in other places in the world, coal is still being used as a primary energy source.
The Japan is kind of a surprise, because this is a very rich country which built fleet of the nuclear reactors for a while that were powering this economy, and they are energy hungry because this is an industrial manufacturing hub, so they need cheap, reliable energy sources. And why they decided to go to coal?
They consider it as a cheap energy source, and they have shut down all their nuclear reactors after Fukushima event, and they are now turning their back to power. And now 9 of the reactors that Japan has are working on the islands. However, there are more than 50 of them that were switched off in 2011. And now special commissions are traveling from one power plant to another to examine the reactors, to examine the general condition of the power plants, just to make sure that it is able to be switched on again. However, we know that not all of the 54 reactors that Japan has and that has been switched off in 2011 will be returned to power. Of course, the Fukushima reactors cannot be, but many others from other power plants, they've been considered too dangerous to be switched on again. So that's why Japan is moving towards coal. And
these are the power plants that are modern with high efficiency, like 50%, like 30%. I don't know what is the current
coal
number. In Japan.
They are modern. They are more. They're generating less emissions than the ones that are working in Poland, for example, right now. But
like most of our capacity is built in 70s.
Yes, that's true.
To be honest.
Yes,
so.
yes. And now we are. Japan plans to build some very modern coal power plants to make sure that this policy will not destroy their emission reduction targets. However, of course, building coal power plants in the atmosphere of climate crisis that is going on in the world, it's a mistake actually. But well, Japanese thought that this is the way that they will handle their energy crisis, their own energy crisis. So.
The same considers China and India. This policy should be global or is not at all? I mean, if we disarm ourselves and everyone else has a gun, are we in stronger position than them?
We are hostages of countries like China or India in the sphere of climate, and without very strong instruments to push these countries away from high emissions, will not be able to succeed in the sphere of climate policy.
Yes, and at least in the way we think now, this policy should be like, because maybe 10 years from now, the position and angles will be different.
That's correct.
Jakub Wiech, energetyka24.pl. There is also an English chapter in this website. Thank you very much for this conversation. And that was it for Poland Daily Business Tonight.
Good evening and welcome to Poland Daily Business Weather. The forecast tomorrow will bring some very fair weather to Poland. We can expect partly cloudy skies throughout the country and temperatures of 1 to 6 degrees. In Europe, we will see showers in Lisbon and Paris, clear skies in Prague and Minsk, cloudy skies are expected in Moscow and Helsinki, and partly cloudy skies will be seen throughout the rest of the continent. The temperatures will vary between 2 and 14 degrees. That is all for now. I thank you for joining us, and I invite you to stay with us for further Poland Daily programs.
Good day, everyone. My name is Maria Kądzielska, and this is Poland Daily Culture. My today's guest is a multi-talented Polish singer, Sasha Stronin. Sasha, thank you for being with us.
And thank you for having me.
Her recent album, Self-Portraits, was nominated to Korifeusz Polish Prize in the category of a Discovery of a Year. But before we dig up more of her secrets, let's listen to one of her songs. Sasha, the Self-Portraits is not your first jazz album. You made one previously, Woman in Black, which actually is the story of your life. And you needed to, as I understand, learn a way of singing jazz in order to record this CD. How it all looked like?
Yeah, it was quite a challenge for me, but actually I'm all the time being in there's this process all the time. So I wouldn't call my first album that I made with Gary Gutman and the jazz album. It was kind of more as a swingish jazz blues album. So actually it had elements of that. So yeah, I've worked a lot, and I kind of felt, because I grew up in an opera singer family, and I was singing pop music, like basically really pop music, like you can hear in the radio, really commercial pop music. And actually I always felt this kind of music, like jazz or something kind of more serious, like telling some stories. Yeah, I always had that in myself, but nobody actually saw that in me before, and Gary was the first one who said, you know, that's something that you should do. So let's do an album when you can show off your voice and tell some stories and tell what you've been through and everything. So that's a really important album for me. It's like a breakthrough for me, and yeah, each song tells a story about me growing up and me changing and me being, you know, who I am right now. So it's yeah, it changed me. And then the second album was already easier.
There are 11 stories on Woman in Black.
Yes.
And could you tell us one of those stories, at least your favorite ones, for example?
No, there's not my favorite, because actually these are my stories of my life. But there's like this there's this ballad that is like, looking back in time, I recall a little girl with no fear, not at all, with a light in her eyes, like stars in the night, her glow. So it like just basically means that I've changed, and I was a little girl and now I'm a woman, and everything that happened to me just made me who I am right now. And I just have to ask myself if I'm too young to know, or I'm already enough, if I have enough wisdom to know what's going on. So yeah, it's just like these stories just you know tell actually the story of who I am right now, and when I came from a totally different background, from the
And could you tell us a little bit more of your story, because you were not born in Poland?
Yes.
So, and then your first language is Polish. How did it all look like that you ended up in Poland and being in
yeah,
music?
actually I have Polish roots, because my grandma is Polish, but my parents, my mother is Ukrainian, my dad is Russian, and they're opera singers. They were opera singers, and they came to Poland for to theater to work, and they were supposed to stay for a few months, and they stayed for a lot of years. You know, I started to go to kindergarten and all of that, so I adjusted, and I kind of felt always like Poland was my first country, and they broke up, and I left here after many years. And actually, my grandma is really happy because she was Polish. Like there is this background of my family that was Polish, and it just came back here to the land that I belonged. So that's how she feels, and actually that's how I feel. I feel really connected to Poland. And I'm really happy that Poland just greeted me in such a great way, because I was not born here, but I already represented Poland on Eurovision Song Contest and stuff like that. Like I always said that Poland is my first country, and that's how I felt. So actually, yeah, that's my background. It doesn't matter where you were born, but it just, the most important thing is how do you feel, and actually that's how I feel. I was loved Poland, and I live here, and I got educated here, and everything that I've been through was here. And yeah, and it's also nice that actually my family came back to Poland because of my grandma who was Polish. She was Polish. She is still alive. I love her. She's 94 years, but she's still strong and she lives. So she's Polish, and she's really happy that actually her blood came back to her land. So
what kind of languages do you speak?
Not much. No, actually I speak po polsku rozmawiam, po-ruski rozmawiam, and also I speak in English. So these 3 languages, basically, yes.
Absolutely cool and great. So your album, Women in Black, was first swing jazz thing, 11 tracks on it. Mm-hmm. And can we hear it anyway? You're still performing it?
Of course I am. We just had few days ago we had an amazing concert in Philharmonic and Baltic Philharmonic in Poland with my band, which is an amazing jazz trio, and we performed for the whole Philharmonic, right? There's 500 people, and we just played my whole jazz album, Woman in Black, swing album, Woman in Black, and a few Polish songs and also covers, and it was an amazing concert. So actually, yeah, I'm still performing with those albums. Of course, I have one album, and then the second one, which is totally Polish, with Polish poetry. So yeah, of course I'm doing that. That's my whole life, and yeah, I'm performing as much as I can. And
when can audience of Poland Daily hear you if they'd like to come to your concert?
Yeah, they have to just check on my webpage, basically. So I had just from time to time I'm having some concerts in little places or big ones, and I already have some new dates when it comes to next year. So you have to write down Facebook Sasha Strunin, and then you have places. And I have an amazing band, jazz band, and actually they're Grammy Award winners, the only one Polish, the only one. The jazz band, which got Grammy with Wodek Pawlik as a jazz album. So yeah, and then I have such a great opportunity to just work with them, and they're playing with me concerts and all of that. So yeah, I'm a really lucky girl, and and I'm playing concerts. Of course, it's not an easy job, because that's not a pop music anymore, and it's not something that everybody can swallow so easily. But I prefer I prefer quality, not quantity, over quantity, obviously. So I prefer to not perform each even weekend or something like that, but I prefer to have one concert which would really satisfy me, because I have people who actually really want to listen to that kind of music, and that really makes me happy.
To prefer quality over quantity is a good punchline to say. And of course, if you're a swing fan or jazz lover, Sasha Strunin, both albums are for you. And thank you for watching Poland Daily Culture.
Welcome to Poland Daily History with me, Nicholas Richardson. In this series of episodes, we're going to be looking at Polish history from a British perspective, and also Anglo-Polish relations in a geopolitical context. And I'm delighted to have with me in the studio today Richard Barclay, who is half Polish. He's been living in Poland for 20 years and is able to bring a unique perspective onto this subject. Richard, thank you for joining me.
Pleasure, thanks for having me.
Could we just start, I think, just by saying a few words about your background? You have a Polish father, or you had a Polish father. I think
yeah,
he's
I had a
dead
Polish
now.
father. My mother, I think, had too much gin one night in Onslow Square, and was waylaid by this young Polish soldier, and it must have been very all right to be Polish in those days, because my mother otherwise would not have relinquished whatever she had in order to produce me. But they produced me, and of course my father was already married to an English girl anyway.
Ah, right.
And he had a rather domineering Welsh father-in-law, who I think was a minister in a Welsh church, who descended on London with a vengeance when he discovered that his son-in-law was vagrant, and from the home. And my father had to go back to his wife. I don't think it was... my mother remained in love with him, actually, all her life, I think. And she had this strange sense of Polish history. I mean, I don't think she knew where Poland was, but she'd known my father well enough in the short time that she'd known him to hear all about his view of the war and what it was like to be Polish and his upbringing, which had been very unusual, actually, because his father was the chief doctor of the railway in Lvov.
Right.
And this was a very prestigious position. But his mother was about 20 years younger than his father. And his father was very, very difficult. I mean, a cousin of mine here, when I met him, told me that my grandfather was actually a psychopath. And there's much in his history to support that. But anyway, they divorced in about 1930. And I think my grandmother had very good reason to divorce him. I mean, one day, for example, she went home and found the house was empty. And she assumed that they'd been burgled. So she rang up my grandfather in the hospital and said, we've been burgled. And he said, well, why do you think that? And she said, well, everything's gone, even the children's clothes. And he said, no, I just thought we had too many things.
Well, he was ahead of his time, clearly.
He was way ahead of his time. He used to, when he was a student, actually, he had it was very interesting, because his father was a great patriot. And they lived in Krakow, having been dispossessed of their estates, because my great-grandfather had actually been part of the 1863 revolt. And I have a photograph of him sitting, rather as we're sitting now, but sitting in between us. And one was the governor of Siberia, and the other was a Russian general. And one of them was holding a bottle, and he's rather sheepish, a sheepish 18-year-old sitting in between them, holding his glass to be poured, a vodka. And he was rather remarkable, because he played the piano very, very well. And actually, after he left Siberia, he went to Berlin to study with Letoshitsky, who was this remarkable Jewish composer and pianist from Weinstut, who actually hugely influenced European piano playing. And
do you think that's maybe where you got your own musical?
Well, it's very interesting, because in my mother's family, we're jumping around rather, but in my mother's family, they were all engineers. I mean, my mother's great-grandfather worked on the rocket with Stephenson. And built Newstage Station, Birmingham, which is interesting because my mother's great-grandfather and my great-great-grandfather both built railway stations. My Polish great-great-grandfather here, one of them, built the whole line that goes from Warsaw to Russia, and the other built, Birmingham. And so my mother's family were very much military people, engineers, and landowners, but mostly in the colonies. Whereas here, the rather interestingly, I mean, I actually came to my family here through music, because my father, after we met when I was 42, told me a lot about where he grew up, and he grew up in a house near Rzeszów. When he was with his father's family, when he was with his mother's family, he was in Gdynia. But he told me all about this big house, you see, where he'd grown up, and showed me photographs. So this was a really remarkable thing about Poles. So many of them, you've probably come across this yourself, when they left Poland and went to England during the war or after the war, they all had their photo albums.
Yes.
It's quite remarkable. And my father had a photo album, you know, this thick. So he was able to show me the house and, you know, family, but he didn't want me to meet them. Oh. Because he was, well, actually, there was a reason for that, but I'll go into later. But I came here on a visit, having been invited by some Poles, and we went down to this house, and the house is a sort of Domdretsko, an orphanage. And the director of the orphanage said, well, you know, you should look up your cousin because he's the head of all the music schools here.
Ah, right.
And in fact, from about the age of 9, at prep school, I tried my damnedest not to have to play football. And the thing that got me off football more than anything else was singing.
Right.
Because I had a really good treble voice. And so if I was, if I could make the excuse that I was practicing singing, I could get out of a football game, because we had to play football 6 days a week. You probably had the same problem. Yeah. And my prep school was right on the top of a cliff overlooking Seaford. And when the winds were blowing in winter, the inside of your legs got horribly chapped by the salt air. And
yeah, I can imagine. Yeah.
Oh, no, just beastly, absolutely beastly. So it put me off football for life, actually, having to play it every day.
Hello everybody and welcome to Poland Daily Travel. As you can see, we are standing by a canal. It's actually a river, isn't it, Carl?
Canal.
It's a canal?
It's a canal.
What's the name of it? Motila?
Motława.
Motława. Motława. Yeah, Motila is like a butterfly.
Matilda is a kangaroo from Australia.
Matilda would be, okay, all right. But this is the what?
Motława.
Motława. No, okay. Anyway, this is a main artery through the town. What does it connect to?
It connects to the sea. And
to the sea, and this way?
To Vistula later on.
It connects to the river over here.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
So it's a very important
canal. Back in the day, they used to. This is the building behind us, which is on the postcard of every Gdansk, every Gdansk postcard.
It's the crane,
right?
The
crane, and it was a crane, and they would pull things, big heavy things, off the ships, and unload them here. It was the height of technology in the 14th century.
In the 14th century?
Yeah.
To me, that'd be the 1300s to me.
I think so, yeah. I mean, that's right.
About 700 years ago.
Something like that.
That's a long time.
14th or 15th. Something like that.
Yeah.
But that's about the era
600 or 700 years ago.
They had giant wheels inside, which horses would walk on to lift the heavy loads. And they would have to pay all the taxes, which is why the city became rich.
They were paying taxes there. That was like a counting house as well.
Yeah.
So it was a government counting house.
Everybody sailing through, getting to the south, had to pay taxes here.
Right, because this was the way you passed through on the Vistula to go to Torun, Warsaw, Krakow,
all those places.
And all the places in between.
Yeah.
Some of the cities were actually more important over time than some of the cities I just mentioned. Because Sandomierz, for example, was very important 600 years ago, but
what happened to it?
Now it's a tiny town, right?
Well, all these places, they just lost their strategic
importance,
value.
Yeah, over so many centuries, it's like 3 times as old as the United States or something, right?
Something like that.
For us, yeah. So you see at the top, there's a crane, right?
And which is of course a pun in multiple languages.
It is? I didn't know that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the same pun in Polish and in German and in English.
Okay.
Which is one of those really odd things that it means both the kind of bird and the lifting device.
The lifting device, which is a crane, right?
Yeah.
So, and this looks like it was a storage place as well.
No, the storage places were across the way, which. Were the old granary buildings, but you can see a couple of them.
Yeah, these are granary buildings here, folks.
Yeah.
The granary buildings are there.
Granary buildings.
What about this boat?
This boat was
the Sole Deck?
Sole Deck. The Sole Deck was the first ship built in the shipyards after they reopened after World War II.
Right.
Under Polish management. So
because World War II actually started in Gdansk. The Germans first fired on the Poles, but said the Poles fired on them, right?
Well, the official excuse was
It's kind of a Gulf of
the
Tonkin.
official excuse to start the war was Hitler wanted to return the free city of Danzig to the Reich. So
they just came and took it.
Yeah.
They just came and took it. Okay. At Westerplatte was the first.
Westerplatte.
Westerplatte, which
Westerplatte.
is a few miles from here.
Yeah.
Out right on the edge of it.
Yeah, there was a little Polish. The League of Nations designated the city as a free city, unofficially in
After
between.
World War I,
After
right?
World War
Yeah.
I, unofficially
In the interwar period.
not belonging to either Prussia or to Poland.
It was called the Polish Corridor, the Polish part, wasn't it? Yeah. And Danzig was a free city.
But there was allowed.
So what does that mean? What did it mean it was a free city there?
It meant basically that it was a politically independent state that was the size of a city.
Yeah, which is amazing.
I mean, they also included some farmlands.
But if you think about it, it's amazing, isn't it?
But it was
its own entity.
Yeah, they had their own money, their own stamps, all that business. And
as recent as the 1930s. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Up
right
until,
up to the war. Yeah.
Up until 1939.
Yeah. So that's
From 1918 to 1939.
Crazy thing to think about. Is there a comparable city like that now? I can't think of one.
Washington D.C.
Hong Kong used to be.
Washington D.C.
Singapore.
Singapore.
Well, Washington, no, but it's part of the United States.
Yeah.
I would say Singapore would be the closest thing now, because Hong Kong is now part of China. Used to be on its own. Anyway, so this boat is actually, you can go on it, right?
You can go on it. It's a museum.
Yeah.
It's a museum of a ship being a ship. And you can go in and see what a ship looked like that was built in 1946.
That'd be fun. Yeah, we'll do that another time. Nice weather. There's so many things to do in Gdansk.
Yeah.
One has to come here and you can spend a week here and not even touch.
One of the big things which is just opened,
everything.
you can kind of see it in the background, is this funny pyramid-looking glass structure there. Is the museum
way down there, under the
crane.
crane.
Is the Museum of World War II.
Which is pretty neat, right?
Brand new, just opened about a year ago, and is a massive experience.
I'd love to see that.
People have donated things from their family, items which related to them personally, like a uniform or things like this. And the museum is then built around these things with an overall structure of explaining the war from many sides, from many situations. It's a very long and intense experience.
Yeah, I'd love to go there. We'll have to go. We're going to go there, but we have to come up here. We're going to do it
a rainy, cold day.
In the winter. We'll do it. Where do you want to be inside? We'll do that, and we'll do the Solidarity Museum, which we might talk about a little more.
Very impressive building.
I'm sure. Yeah. And that's the Museum of the Maritime Museum, the Naval Museum. Yeah. Okay. Poland Daily Travel. Stay with me, stay with Carl. We're going to go for a further walk now. This is nice.
This is nice. Gdansk is just blooming, as you can see. There's so much going on here lately, and new buildings are sprouting everywhere around. We've got a new bridge. Over here, the oldest...
Yeah, what is this place? Kubitsky. I'm feeling a bit peckish, actually. I'm a little hungry.
It's the oldest, I believe, continually existing restaurant in town. Except for one which officially dates back way 100 years, but still, this is one continually family operated since 1918. And that's very classy, high-end food. And the younger generation runs the fish and chip shop next door.
Oh, their family?
Yeah, it's family.
I think I like the fish and chips idea. We're in Gdynia, and maybe it's a good idea for later.
Yeah.
And over here, there's a nice little, what is that, a taxi or something?
It actually belongs to a hotel. And if you stay, there's a certain hotel if you stay at.
Cubis Hotel.
The Cubis Hotel, you can just sail around in the little boat.
Okay. That's amazing, isn't
it? There's the Philharmonie across the way.
That's the Philharmonie there.
Yeah, which is
right
a
there.
really beautiful converted electrical generating plant. And Gdansk has seen fit to make a selfie spot. Which says Gdansk.
So you stand in front of that sign?
Yeah.
But
take your selfie.
I think this is a better selfie if we stood here.
This is a better view.
With the whole thing behind us. You know, the whole of the canal and everything. I don't think that's very good to stand in front of a sign.
Well, but then
what's wrong with people?
Everybody knows where you are.
What?
You know where you are. It says so.
It tells you?
It says so.
You could just put a, but on the media, you put a, I'm in Gdansk, you know, with the thing, you know, on the
localization.
Facebook. You can do it. I don't understand why you need big letters like that, but.
Well, that's for the younger generation.
Okay, well, they need to be, okay.
And they can also write on the Gdansk eye.
Yeah. That's the, oh, that's nice. I'd like to do that.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be fun.
Yeah.
I'd love to do that. Yeah. And here we have a huge bridge, because we can't get there. We can't get there unless we walk.
Right.
You want to go get on the bridge?
Well, we'd have to wait a while. As you can see, we have this lovely
there's people waiting now.
High-tech bridge that goes up, and then it stands up because they have all these big ships that need to sail in and out.
This is incredible. Look at that.
Yeah.
This is magical.
Yeah.
This is extraordinary. It's really amazing what they've done with this city.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And but that bridge, if we wait, oh look, it's a pirate ship.
Yeah, the pirate ship is arriving. Yes, we have
Are you kidding me? It's a pirate ship. I don't believe it.
And you know what the creepiest thing about the pirate ship is?
Yeah.
It sails without any sails.
Oh, come on, let's go. It has no sails. It's a very fast ship for having no sails. The Black Pearl. Oh, that's like Johnny Depp's ship, isn't it? The Black Pearl?
Exactly. Yeah.
That is hilarious. I can tell that Poland Daily Travel is going to come to beautiful Gdansk many times.
Come in the summer.
And if you get your new club open,
we'll be drinking heavily there.
We'll come there. We'll come there and we'll film an episode there.
Okay.
Or two. Yeah. Well, this is fantastic. Gdansk, you have to love it, I think. I'm very impressed with what we've seen today, and walking around with you has been a lot of fun to this point. Maybe we'll do a couple more.
I'm sure we
see
will.
what else we can see.
Okay.
Okay, that's the end of this particular episode. I mean, just take a look. We don't need to say anything. This is an amazing city, and you know, if you come here, you will not be disappointed any more than we are. Carl lives here, and he's still excited about it, right?
Absolutely.
There you go. And you're not jaded at all. That's amazing. Yeah. Gosh. Okay, it's a marvelous place. Gdansk, come and visit. Watch Poland Daily Travel.